Hi, I'm Christina Salerno, the creator and curator of Living Quirky. And I am here with Sasha Cagen, who is a writer and dating and relationship coach. She's been writing, Quirkyalone came all the way since 2000, and she's fantastic, and we've been connecting, and I wanted to talk a little bit more with her and let you hear her story.
Thank you, Christina.
So I wanted to know, what do you think Quirky is? I know that we have really similar missions, and I wanted to start there.
So for me, quirky is really something that is very essential, that it's basically the idea that we are all quirky. We all have quirks. This is just the nature of the planet. And the people who have a positive relationship to their quirks and sort of celebrate their differences are quirky. So it's about self-acceptance. It's about having fun. It's kind of like the light and more fun way of saying that you're strange or different, basically. So it was with the Quirkyalone book, I have a list of words, like it could also be kooky alone or weird alone or bizarre alone, but none of those things would feel quite as good as quirky alone.
Yeah. Okay. And what kind of, how did you come about that?
Like the Quirkyalone idea? Well, it was a very intuitive and quirky process. It was many years ago. It was late 90s, basically. And I was about 24, 25 then. And I basically had been someone who had been single for most of my life. And I had a deep sense of feeling different and strange about that. And it was at that time that there was the first sort of wave of television shows that were validating and even just showing that experience, like Ally McBeal and Sex and the City. And I also saw representations in advertising that felt like my own experience, in particular, a woman walking alone at night. And that was something that you saw in Ally McBeal a lot. And somehow those two words just came together to me, that quirky was like, you're not a cookie cutter person. You don't want a cookie cutter relationship. It might take a little bit longer to find a good match for you. Mm-hmm. And the alone part has never been about being a loner, really, even though people identify with that part and think that some of them think it's about being a loner. It's more about being comfortable and confident with being on your own in terms of relationship and being willing to enjoy that state and not feel like you have to date for the sake of dating. So it's not even about like being perfectly self-sufficient either. You know, I mean, we all need other people,
right?
But it's just that being single can be totally rich and okay too.
Okay. Yeah. It also sounds like there's an element of being like not codependent, like being alone in yourself, and that is like, that's okay. Like a lot of people, like I think we feel like we want this mate and we want this partner, and that we can still want that, but then also honor like who we are. Does that sound about?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of the paradox at the heart of it all, is that connecting to yourself and really loving yourself and being okay with yourself is what's necessary to have a healthy relationship. And I call that Quirky Together in the book. And I have an online class now called Quirky Together 101. And so that's the part that's like, I'm really about connection. Like I'm not really about like being alone all the time. Although I love traveling alone, I spend a lot of time alone. But it's really about this comfort with solitude and being with yourself and holding your own experience and loving yourself that actually allows for the very cool and deep connection with someone else who has that too. Mm-hmm. You know, you're wanting, or what I'm wanting and the people that I work with are wanting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people with this like online world, we're wanting more and more connection.
In terms of friendship or constant connection, or
yeah, it's like we feel like we're connected, but not really connected. And we're wanting like genuine connection.
Right. Yeah. Like a deeper connection than a like or a comment. And all of that is great and can be really helpful and nourishing. But yeah, I mean, we need to be really conscious about our connection to ourselves too, to shut that stuff down and be complete within ourselves, you know, whatever that looks like cooking or taking a bath or a walk or something like that. And then also have that ability to really be with someone else. I mean, and I'll speak from experience. I'm as addicted as the most addicted person, but I know that my ability to really connect with someone or myself is about my ability to feel complete within that experience without checking and feeling like this diffuse need for connection.
So how do you personally like balance that kind of desire to connect with yourself and then desire to connect with others?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm pretty conscious of and searching for, you know, that like to consciously turn off my phone and take a walk by myself, you know, and to feel the completeness of that. For me, quite personally, I've spent a lot of time in South America in the last few years, and I was actually sort of escaping technology and the always on thing. Like the fact that I couldn't have an iPhone was great. You know, I love that, to be away from this sense of always checking. I dance tango, so that's something where I leave, for the most part, I leave it all behind and I'm completely in the moment. So basically seeking activities or friendships that take me completely within the moment.
I like that. Like the idea of being completely wherever you're at and being in that moment, wherever that's at, whether that's being alone and being really like alone and connecting to that, or being like with somebody else and connecting with that.
Yeah. And I think there's a definition of solitude that is just inhabiting the moment. And solitude can include a connection with another person. So it's like a solitude-oriented friendship is one where we're totally present with each other and nothing else is there. And maybe we don't even say anything, but we're like completely in it together. And I mean, that's always what I've craved. Like I really crave that kind of connection with myself or with another person. Like, and sometimes like I am the kind of person who gets upset if you're like checking your phone on a date or something, or, you know, I'm just like, no, I want you to pay attention to me and, you know, be together.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about this idea of going from Quirkyalone into Quirky Together and how that plays into your dating and relationship coaching, and what do you really like help people with?
So it starts in a way with my own journey that, you know, I wrote this book Quirkyalone and I became so heavily identified with being single in my mid-20s, or the concept in my mid-20s, and the book came out when I was 30. So I found that for myself, I had always been really a romantic and I always really wanted a partner. And at the same time, I was quite ambitious and focused on my work and my friends, and I had a very adventurous life. And I really had to admit to myself when I got to about 35 or 36 that there was really something more going on than just not having met the right person. Because although I believe that luck and circumstance plays a big role in connecting and having the right relationship, I could sense that there was something else going on within me. And that was basically that I felt like I had a lot of limiting beliefs about relationships, and I felt like I couldn't really be free in a relationship. So I went through a pretty serious period of self-examination and getting clear about what stories and messages I had in my own head, and basically unraveling those so that I could have more freedom and really believe that I could really show up and be myself. And basically I had to learn how to be vulnerable and like really share myself, which has been a journey that even though I write really personally, it hasn't necessarily been easy for me to share myself vulnerably with another person. And that's like the Quirky Together is like, yeah, it's two Quirkyalones coming together or Quirkyalone coming together with another person. But more than that, it's like, how do I really be quirky with another person and share who I really am and know that that's going to be okay, even if, well, maybe they're not going to like all my quirks, but I'm going to just show up as who I am. Because what I found was really the shame that was disconnecting me from people. Like I actually had some shame about the fact that I hadn't had the long-term relationship I felt like I was supposed to have had. So I've worked through a lot of that myself, and I've learned so many practices and ways of working with those things to develop more freedom, to create more ability to connect and be vulnerable and communicate, learn things that I never really even knew how to do, like how to communicate my needs and know that I would be able to share them and not get lost because I felt like I would have to accommodate the other person. So basically now in my coaching, I'm helping people with the same kind of stuff. And my clients are people who often have been single for a long time and they want to date or have a relationship, but they have walls up and they feel like they haven't had enough experience, or there's stories that are really controlling them. And having another person to witness your story and be able to pick it apart a little bit and make suggestions about a different way of viewing things is really powerful. And it just creates an opening door to like, oh yeah, it could be different than what I thought, or actually, I don't have to lose myself in a relationship. You know, I don't have to stop being creative when I'm in a relationship, or any number of things that people tell themselves. And then sometimes too, I work with people who are coming out of long relationships and just don't even have a terrain about being single. And I help them to kind of learn how to be okay on their own, how to discover what it is that they really want to do, and know that that's possible and live it, you know?
Right. It's one thing to, you know, like figure out on your own how to be who you are, and then when you add in another person, it's like it's just exponentially more difficult, and you're trying to be aware of that person and be aware of yourself at the same time.
Yeah, and they're actually skills that you learn, you know, like that's what I've learned is like you actually get those skills up to par. And what I've really learned is that you don't have to be in a relationship to learn those skills. You can do it with your friends too, or your family. Like it's about how you show up in every relationship. And also, and most important, the relationship with yourself. So I see a lot of people who feel like, oh, I haven't had that relationship experience, so I'm screwed now, or something like that. And it's just not true. Like it's all about the desire and building those skills that you could do it with your sister, with your mother, most of all with yourself. And that's part of the confidence of knowing like, oh, I can hold my own. I can be attentive and care and love another person and also care for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So if you could give one quick, like, what would my experience of working with you as a coach be like? What is like one taste or one tip of like that you would give to one of your clients?
Well, I think the biggest thing is like a lot of it is me listening to you and listening on a deep level for the blind spots that you don't really have. And it really all comes down to how you relate to yourself in a way, because that relationship that you have, every relationship you have with another person is a mirror for how you think that they're perceiving you. So if you have, and we all have a relationship with ourselves that can be improved in this culture, you know, like we can all become more loving and gentle with ourselves. That's just the bottom line. And it's this sort of, the more self-acceptance you can cultivate for yourself and love for yourself, the more it's really true. You know, it's a cliche and it's actually true that then if you're okay with your own imperfections, you will be more okay with another's imperfections and have more capacity to fall in love with them, because we're all perfect and imperfect, you know? And in this kind of online dating world that is all kind of consumer oriented, you can fall into this thing of like, this, you know, it's a classic Quirkyalone problem of like, nobody is good enough, or everybody, I can't deal with this person, that person. But like, it really is about cultivating the acceptance of all yourself and all your quirks and foibles. And the more you do that, the more you can show up for another person and fall in love with them.
Yes. Yes. Embracing all of who you are.
Yeah, totally. The quirky connection comes back.
Yes. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about Tango for you. I know it does play a really big part in who you are and like your story behind this new adventure that you're creating for people. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I discovered Tango 3.5 years ago when I was traveling alone in South America, in Colombia, actually. So it was a very quirky and unexpected discovery because I was staying in Cali, which is the world capital of salsa. So this woman from Belgium at my hostel invited me to go to a tango club, and I just said yes because I basically developed the philosophy of saying yes whenever possible, and it was just like, yes, I want to go with you. And that was the first time I ever saw tango, that night in Colombia, where I saw this dance performance. I had never seen it before. I had the cliche image of the rose and the teeth, this which is not at all what it is. And the dance was so subtle and connected, and I could absolutely feel their connection from across the room in a way that was completely different than salsa, which is more like having fun and upbeat and energetic. And tango was all about the connection between these two people. And I was just totally riveted by them because I could feel it. I could actually feel it in my body, what they were feeling in a way. And so my friend Greet from Belgium and I decided that we would take lessons with the guy who was performing that night. And so we started in his garage in Colombia learning, and we got totally obsessed. And actually, after 6 weeks, I gave a tango show at that same club with another teacher, which was completely audacious and wild because you don't know tango after 6 weeks at all. But I had such great teachers there, and I was having so much fun that I just wanted to do it. So that was a really amazing moment for me because it was like bringing my sexuality and my pride and performing in a way that I never thought I would perform as a dancer in front of like 120 people in Colombia. It was just amazing. And from there, I decided to go with Greet to Buenos Aires, and I spent 2 months there. And basically, I've just developed this incredible passion and love for tango as a dance and also a way of life and a metaphor. So since I'm this person who has always studied connecting to yourself and connecting to another person, I realized that tango, being the ultimate partner dance and being totally a physics of two people and connection, was just the ultimate metaphor for that too, for life and relationship off the dance floor. And there are so many ways that I have grown as a person through tango that I basically just want to share this with people because the dance itself is total bliss. Like really, there's nothing that has been such bliss for me in my whole life. I was always searching for a hobby, like that thing that was going to be my thing. I'm like, oh my God, I found it. I had things I liked, but no, this is something I really love. And then it also has this deep metaphorical level that really is like a personal quest. And when I went back to live in Buenos Aires last year, I found my people who think of tango that way. And they have a workshop called Tango, which is sort of combining psychology and culture and tango. Mm. So I've learned all these exercises and this way of thinking about tango in a sort of deep psychoanalytical way. And just like connection. So even if you don't really know how to dance it, you can like feel the energy. It's a little bit like biodanza, which is another thing about dance and connection. So I just feel like I have learned so much and I know so many amazing people in Buenos Aires that I was like, well, next time I want to create a trip and share this with people. And that's what I'm doing in May.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome what you're about to, what this adventure, it's like, I also love tango and dancing and movement and yes, connection. And so can you share a little bit more? Like I've seen you write about how you describe it as discovering yourself on a tango adventure. So like I mean, obviously it's not just dancing in a foreign country. Like, can you go a little bit more into that?
Okay. That's a great question. So I think that tango allows you to discover yourself in a way because it really asks you to connect to yourself and find your center of balance within yourself. So tango is this cool thing where two people are leaning in toward each other and making a heart connection here, right? So like this is one person and this is the other person. But each person needs to be in their own center of balance in order to create this other center of balance between the two. So basically you're negotiating between your own balance and finding yourself and connecting to yourself. And this person is too. And then the two are creating a third. And then, so there's that discovery of like, how do I connect to another person and remain connected to myself? Like that's, and of course you're going to lose your balance a million times, but you keep coming back to yourself. So that's a really interesting quest. And then the other way you discover yourself, I mean, tango really asks you through the study of it to cultivate your whole body, like absolutely, even your ear. Like if I make a turn, I'm going to lead with my ear. So it's sort of this discovery of the sensuality of your whole body. And tango is like, people think of tango as sexy, but it's not sex, but it is deeply sensual, that like you're actually feeling, you're asked to like feel everything. And then when you're feeling another person and you're feeling the music, it like can make your whole body tingle. And there's a tangasm. That's what it's called. Is like when you eventually, or maybe I had a tangasm very quickly because I started with good dancers to lead me. So what I want to create for people is they get to have the experience of dancing with experienced dancers. Because when you have two beginners, you're probably not going to have a tangasm. Like it's just not going to happen. But if you are a beginner, especially a beginner follower, and you can be sensitive and be led by someone who is an experienced dancer, you do have a chance of feeling a tangasm very quickly. And it's like, I'm thinking of putting together a page of my tango story, and I have videos of me like after a few weeks of dancing with this little upturned smile of bliss being led by this dancer. And it's like, it's something so special. And there's someone in Buenos Aires called Rodolfo Dinzel, who's sort of a theorist of tango. And the way he describes it is the dance as a search for the return to the mother's embrace. So for both men and women, leaders and followers, that the embrace of tango, which is a hug, is like seeking to return to be in your mother's arm as a baby. And that's a little bit of what the tangasm is like you're like, oh, I'm being held and I'm dancing and you just feel something so amazing.
Wow. So, because I know somebody else is asking this question, what exactly is a tangasm?
So a tangasm is a moment, I would call it an all-body orgasm, really, of dancing and music and connection. And yeah, I mean, like for me, a tangasm feels like my skin cells are just like glowing in a way. And there was a moment with that woman, Greet, who was my friend, where I just so distinctly remember running to her after a tango lesson and saying, I think tango might be better than sex. And like, that was after a tangasm. I was like, and there's no STI, there's control. Like you don't have to like negotiate. I mean, tango is a little bit like a one night stand. You dance 4 songs with someone in a tanda, and then you say thank you, goodbye.
Wow.
So it's very clean in a way, and it's basically a way to feel your sensuality, to feel like a woman, to be complimented, especially in Buenos Aires. They're very good at like making you feel beautiful and saying nice things to you. And then it's over. Ciao. So it's like, it's basically can be a whole bunch of one night stands in a night.
Wow. I'm there. Sign me up.
I know. It's pretty special. A tribe, like the people within this culture form a worldwide tribe, basically, who love tango.
Yeah. This was amazing. I've just done a little bit of tango, but this has like opened my eyes to the possibilities. Is there any last thoughts you want to share? I know that there's lots of information about the actual Tango adventure on your website.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really excited about it. We're going to stay together in a guest house, and I'm going to create this experience. So if you have Tango experience or you don't, it'll work for you because the instruction will be personalized. And we're going to do cool things too, like look at the street art in Buenos Aires and eat together and just basically explore. And this everything I'm talking about now is part of the new book that I'm writing that is tentatively called Wet. A really bold title. That's why it's tentative, and I'm figuring out if I can like roll with that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, this is stuff I'm deeply passionate about. I'm writing about. If you come on the trip, then you get to see what will be in this book, in this memoir that I'm writing. So it's like getting a sneak peek. And in addition, I'm going to be in Buenos Aires for a longer period of time because I'm basically like to spend a few months there a year because I love it so much. And I may do one-on-one coaching and experience if you're not able to come during the week of May 24th to the 31st. So basically, people should just check what's available on my site, sashacagen.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I love to talk about Tango.
I love to hear about Tango, apparently. Well, thank you so much. This was incredible. And there will be links to the website and to find more information and how to join this amazing adventure. Thank you so much for chatting with me. This was incredible.
Thank you.